ones, right?
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the meeting of the K-12 Education Subcommittee of Ways and Means on the 19th of March. We have 4 bills to look at during the meeting today, and we have a guest who can give us some information. So we're going to start off a little bit out of order, and we're going to start out with, I don't have it in front of me, House Bill 1000. This bill was a bill that was designed to create mapping, mostly focused on mapping water features, but also mapping a mile around a school. The idea of the water features has to do with this, with the sponsor's interest in protecting students who have elopement predilection. But it turns out it was a little expensive the way that it was written, and the fiscal note was a little bit confusing, and we had pretty much put it off. But thanks to the good efforts of the sponsor and the willingness of the committee, we think we've got a working version now. Allie J, would you give a quick rundown on what we've done? And then if we want to ask Kate Bryan from the Maryland Center for School Safety, which does the mapping, we'll be happy to weigh in if there's a question. Go.
Yes, sir. So the amendment does not do too much, but it does sort of clarify the intent of the bill. It says that beginning on the effective date of the act, which is July 1 of this year, that mapping projects shall include within a 1 mile radius bodies of water. The intent there is to address this eloping issue. So it is not going to be retroactive. It's not going to affect people who've already gotten their school maps. They will not be out of compliance with the bill, but it will affect those going forward.
There's a limited budget that has been set aside previously. It's not entirely used up, but about 70% of it is gone. So the question is, what happens if more want to do it than we can handle? I think the budget just runs out and we say, we did our best, sorry.
I think it's
we could serve for more money in the budget if it gets like that, I think, but
I think it is actually, there's $10 million allocation in statute every year for the Center for School Safety, and I think this is one of the things that they're authorized to use those grant funds for. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's the case. But it would be
let's go to Kate Bryan and have her comment on what her understanding is of the allocation and how it works.
Sure. So, so just for some clarification, so the $10 million is only allocated for school resource officers and security employees. So that $10 million is separate. The funding for the mapping grant came out of the special fund, the Safe Schools Fund. So that was appropriated in fiscal year 26. There is no appropriation in fiscal year 27. So there will not be a new grant until there are funds appropriated either out of the Safe Schools Fund or out of the general fund to be able to have another grant in future years.
Thank you. All right. And Delegate Hornberger, your hand is still up. I don't know if you didn't put it down, if you have further questions.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I guess this isn't mandatory to do this. And then the second question is, I have a school coming online right now that has a water feature right in front of it. If they were to go and apply for these funds and they were exhausted, what would be the cure?
So if they were to attempt to apply for the grant and the grant is exhausted, they'd have to find the funds locally.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Ah, you know what? There's Delegate Miller asking a question. So nice to have you, ma'am.
Oh, so nice. So nice to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a quick follow-up. So this is required going forward, and it will be part of it going forward, not retroactive, because I heard two things.
I'm going to let Alistair answer that in terms of the bill, but I believe that's correct.
Yeah, it's only prospective. It's not retroactive.
But it's required.
As part of the features that they have to include in
the map. Okay.
So if somebody decides they want to do mapping now and they haven't done it, then they will have to include this as part of their mapping. But it's not an entire map of the mile radius. It's just a map of where the water features are with regard, because the issue for the sponsor, and we talked to her about it, was that kids who elope drown. Okay. And so we're trying to make sure the school knows where their water features are. Excuse me. Kate Bryant, I'm gonna let you answer that if you want to weigh in again on that. Excuse me.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so my understanding of the way it's written is it is only a requirement that these are included, all of these elements to include this new one are only required if they use our state funds to develop those maps. So if they do it on their own, none of these elements are required to be in their maps.
Gonna look to Alistair for that technical, just a nod, or actually it would apply to everybody. No, that's correct. Yeah, let's get it straight. Thank you. Perfect. Delegate Patterson, you have a question.
Thank you very much. More or less a statement. This was a bill that I sponsored last year, and it had to do with fencing because we have had several students who were autistic who eloped and unfortunately drowned. So there was a work group. So I'm surmising this came out of the work group, and it's really needed. And I appreciate the sponsor for having this as part of the legislation. Because the
Thank you.
question was raised when I did it was how far would we include the entire state? And of course, I didn't know the answer, but this is very definitive and I certainly support it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And obviously, the sponsor came up with something that was, at first, it seemed like it might be fiscally unmanageable, but we found a way to do that. You know, we had another bill just days ago that was on the same subject with the tracking devices. So she's paying close attention to this. Is there any further discussion on the amendments to the bill?
Move favor.
I got a favorable motion. Do I have a second? And I have a second. Is there no further discussion? All those in favor of the amendments, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Delegate Pastor, you want to shout in there?
Yeah.
She's got a yes. Thank you, ma'am.
I had yes.
Okay, thank you. And then on the bill as amended, does anyone have any further discussion on the bill as amended?
So favorable, please.
Thank you. And a second. No further discussion, I don't think, because we've had plenty. If you're in favor, please raise your hand. We're going to just wait for Delegate Pastor to snap her camera on there and do what she does. There she is. Thank you. 7, and it's unanimous. So this bill will be carried forward for a committee vote. Thank you. Kate, you're welcome to stay. I don't know if everything else applies to you, but we really do appreciate you coming on board and weighing in with us on this. Certainly do. Certainly good to have you as a resource. All right. Next bill will be House Bill 14. This is a bill that came to us looking for ways for reporting on bullying, especially as it applies to subgroups, minority groups. It is a priority bill for the Black Caucus, I believe, and the LGBTQ caucus, and AAPI. I don't think I'm not sure it's Black. I might misspeak there, but AAPI and the LGBTQ caucus has come in with this. Bill needed a little work. It was a little hard to work with. We thought about doing a number of things to decide when reporting would be necessary. It was difficult. We tried to do something called risk ratios, and it can be done, but describing them and deciding on them was somewhat confusing. And we decided to take an easier path, and it simply says that a county shall include in its report incidents of bullying, harassment, intimidation that after thorough and partial investigation are determined to have been motivated by in a substantial part by personal characteristics. And then in these situations, there's been a substantial, and that's our loose word here, substantial increase in incidents of bullying, harassment, intimidation for students of that group over the previous year, or there's a disproportionate incident rate of bullying, harassment, or intimidation for students of that group, meaning disproportionate to the larger population. And then there's some stuff about reporting after that, but that's the essence of it. We didn't over define it here. And so, Alistair, I'll let you say if there's any other parts to the amendment that you think are significant there.
No, I think that covers the amendment. I could just talk, the bill as it was introduced, changes the reporting requirements for bullying, harassment, and intimidation to include individual personal characteristics as part of the form that the State Department of Education has to come up with. That form generates reports by each county board, and those go to the State Department of Ed, and those they're compiled and go to the General Assembly. So in that system of reporting for the individual personal characteristics, those are reported in this manner that the delegate
Yeah,
described.
and I think one of the things we didn't like about the general forum was that it had a kind of a mixture of the type of bullying and who was being bullied in one question. And we kind of suggested that they sort that out, that they have why they were, what it was about their characteristic that they thought was the reason for bullying or none. And then they could have another question for how the bullying occurred. Was it, physical pushing, hitting, that kind of thing. So does that sound right about Alistair? I'm might be getting ahead out of my skis a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
happy to read the definition for bullying, harassment, intimidation if anyone would
we'll
like.
see if somebody wants it. I think we have pretty good sense of it. A lot of us do a lot of reading. Delegate Miller, question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alistair, is the word perceived personal characteristics still in there?
It is in there for, yes, I think it's in there for the, certainly for the first part for the form, the identification. What is being required for the reporting of the group is group characteristics, which is to some degree going to be based when it's if you're doing this risk ratio comparison about disproportionality, that's going to be based on the actual characteristics of students. But I do think that after a thorough and impartial investigation, even if someone was not a member of the group, I think that would be included in the calculation that they do for the report.
And this is under B3, right? C, sorry. I'm in the wrong section, but it's on page 3 and it says believed, not perceived.
And that is for the I think perceived is there too. It's believed and perceived. Believed is rhyming very well today.
Oh, yeah, it
Believed
is there too. You're right, right. Or perceived personal characteristics. But perceived is perceived by the bullier. Believed is believed by the reporter. Okay.
So, yeah, and that's where I'm kind of struggling a little bit as far as perceptions and how we perceive things. Certainly, people can perceive things and get very upset, or that their perception might be difficult than what the other person meant. And so that part of it would take, like I said, is putting me back a little bit. The other piece is there anywhere that they designate if it was a staff member or a student doing the bullying? Because bullying reports can also be filled out about staff members.
First question first. The perception in the bill actually refers to the perception of the bullier. So if we think the bullier bullied them because they thought they were Asian, but they weren't actually Asian, it would still count because they thought they were doing it to someone who was Asian. The believed is the part I think you're more concerned about, that the person who is doing the report or dealing with the bullying, the staff member presumably, believes that has been by the student's account or by what they saw, believe that it was motivated by that. Now, second question, Alistair, I'm gonna let you take that one.
I'm sorry, I got lost a little bit. Do you mind repeating the second question, Delegate?
The second place then, is there also then a place to put whether it was staff that the bullying report is being filled out, or like another student doing it? Because you can fill them out for either.
Right, we have
Yes.
this is against students in this bill.
But yeah, it's against students, but I'm saying like a staff member can be accused of bullying a student.
Yes, I don't think that this changes the form. It just adds a new thing to the form. So I think current practice can be continued and you can include that in your reports of bullying. I do think
Okay.
that I mean, in the collection of data for bullying, I do think that would also be included if the conditions for reporting are triggered. If there's a substantial increase and part of that increase is bullying staff members, then I think that would be reported.
Okay.
Let's just add that if it's a staff member, yes, it still should be reported, but there would be more significant if it was really believed that a staff member was bullying a student.
Yeah.
I think there'd be
Well,
more
and it happens both
significant.
ways.
I think,
I've actually heard both.
right, there should be reported, but I believe there'd be more significant consequences to that
Yeah.
for a staff member. I'm just adding that in. It does not really to your question exactly.
Yeah, I think I said students in here, so I think if you would like, Mr. Chair, we can change that to say members of the group rather than students from the group. I think
So
that's an oversight on my part.
What you're suggesting if I understand, Alistair, is that a teacher could be bullied and that would be reported. That's something we need to take up. I think most of it's about protecting students, but if we want to go deeper, we can. Let's put a pin in that for a second and see how we feel about that. I think it would be a hard change to make before the voting today, and so we should consider that. Let's hear the other questions, and then we'll come back to that. Okay, Delegate Hornberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll call them the victim. Does the victim have to identify that they're a member of the group? And the reason I ask this is, let's say it's an LGBTQ student, but they don't want to broadcast that. And now they're being bullied. And then they go in front of the you see what I'm saying here?
You may have remembered this discussion on a bill I had several years ago.
Correct.
And we didn't get it through the Senate. We actually passed it in the House.
Correct.
We ran into that problem. The report does not have to be made to the parents, I don't believe. There's no requirement of that here. So
I was more so asking if, because this is a trigger mechanism, right? What triggers the report? So if the student doesn't want to answer, we'll just call it their protected class. If they don't want to identify
well,
that
let's go with an LGBTQ student. It's a good example.
Sure. So they don't want to make that known to the investigator or to the person that's asking the questions.
Right.
So does that automatically invoke it's not getting tracked?
So
if this is, you're right. You're in a touchy area here. Even generally, we're talking about reporting, but even generally, if the person taking the report believes that, I mean, they investigate. That's a whole other thing that's done already at this point.
Okay.
So that's not what this bill addresses, but it's at issue. That person would become part of the report after investigation. So the question is broader, but ask it again so we get it now.
Yeah. So if the victim does not want to disclose that they are part of a protected class, and the person bullying them it is believed that they're doing so because the victim is a member or is perceived to be a member of the protected class, does the unwillingness of the victim to disclose that still potentially trigger a reportable thing?
Yeah, it does, I think. And this was one of the reasons I had this bill a few years ago, because I was concerned about the reporting and that it became an issue because we said, well, maybe the parents don't get to know because it might be exacerbating a situation at home. But I think right now, the way the law stands is that report is made and parents are notified. Then this bill will become part of the report. Now, the kids' names are not in this report that they're asking for this bill.
Right.
This is
I'm just talking about the
disaggregated by
investigation
numbers.
process.
It's a great question, and I think it's something we should work on. I tried that year, but I'm not going to name names here, but I had a group that didn't support the LGBTQ community that after we passed it in the House, defeated it in the Senate because they didn't want to let them be carved out. They didn't really want to give them that sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to weigh in on that, but
yeah, I know. Well, I would, because it was my bill.
What I don't want is that something doesn't get reported or doesn't get reported accurately because the sensitivity of the victim.
I think it does get reported. Alistair, do you have anything on that? Maybe we can ask, like Laurel's here. We could ask her if she has an answer on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't.
Let's let Alistair go first, Laurel.
Yeah, I could give it a shot. I mean, so there might be a slight tension in the in protecting a victim in the way you're describing and the victim's rights with the goal behind this bullying reporting in general, which is for the state to get a sense of what's going on in schools. Right. I think that in each instance there is a thorough investigation, but you're limited by what the investigator is able to discern and come up with. So they could, for instance, categorize a thing that if people are not cooperative and their investigation does not actually get to the bottom of what happened, but it still involved seriously intimidating or threatening behavior, they could just report that. That's like a limitation of the current system, I think, and I don't know if affected by this bill.
Okay, thank you.
They're great questions, Kevin. Thank you for getting my ire up again. Delegate Pasteur, I see you have a question too.
I do. I want to go back, I think, a little bit to Delegate Miller's question. And I think you said we would put that on the side or do something with that later. And that
Yes.
is about the adult engaged in this, because I have received, when I was a principal and when I was in the equity office, complaints that started out, and on the board, started out looking like that was bullying from one student to another or against another. But when the person who was being bullied went to an adult in that building, they and the parents ended up feeling like it was dismissed or not handled well by that adult. So what happened is it moved from being substantially a student on a student to now engaging that adult just by way of how it was handled, which precipitated training, that kind of sensitivity training. So would that be included, or does that go under what you said earlier, something we want to look at later?
So what Delegate Miller suggested is a little different, I think, than what you're saying. She
Okay.
suggested that we add in that if a teacher was bullied, in other words, if a kid thinks a teacher's gay and pushes them because they're the gay teacher, that is that an incident? And Delegate Miller suggesting we make it that the way the bill's written right now, it doesn't do that. And so she's suggesting that. Now, reiterate what you're suggesting here so we can.
No, I got that. I
Okay.
understand that that went one way, but I'm just moving from that, taking it the other way, that in the report, in the incident, in the issue that occurred, when it was reported in the school, the child and the parents or the parents felt that there was no real support, and this exacerbated the situation. There was no real report or anything done, because that does happen where it gets just pushed to the side by the adult. Is that included? Because if we're looking at reporting of an incident of bullying, where do we stop if it didn't just occur from another student? If
So are
you
you
understand.
I'm sorry, yes. I thought you were done.
No, I'm just no, I'm pretty much done.
Okay.
Sometimes just saying that the situation has been known to be exacerbated by
Right.
how it was handled in school before a report was even done.
So
How
it sounds
far do
like
we go?
might be suggesting that if somebody doesn't do a report or take a report or honor a report, that is also bullying. I'm not
And
sure that's
also,
true because
and not,
these are bullying reports. They're not necessarily reporting failure of the system here.
no, I'm also talking about, let's be real, adults say things that are unkind too,
Right.
and often bully. So I'm asking that question. Adults do bully. I'm saying that from experiences as a school administrator, that adults do sometimes make it worse.
Right. So I think you could characterize it if a kid came to me as a teacher and I was a very insensitive teacher, and while they were reporting it, I said, well, maybe you shouldn't be so gay. That to me
Yeah,
is bullying. Okay. And that would
exactly.
be a second incident to me there. And
Okay,
the student should report that because that goes back to Delegate Miller's suggestion, and maybe, it goes the other way around too. If I'm getting pushed around because I'm a gay teacher and I go to the principal, and the principal says that to me, then I've been bullied
exactly.
twice. Okay.
That's
But,
right.
so yes, I agree with you on that. And I think
That's
that's not
right.
really in the bill, but I think, I would hope that would be taken like
Yeah.
that.
Can I say something, Mr. Chair?
I hope so.
May I please? Sorry,
I hope
apologies
so.
for
I hope you may also.
abusing the language so
That wasn't what I was doing.
so difficultly. So I just wanted to address Delegate Pastor's point, which I think is a good one. The way that the statute is structured is really focused only on reporting, and it does not get into the ways in which schools actually carry this out, the ways in which bullying is addressed, the means of making students whole. I think your bill from last session on restorative practices gets at some of that, but unfortunately, that's not really in the current statutory structure here, and it's not being changed by this bill. This is mostly focused on the reporting aspects of things. So I think those are very valid concerns and probably great ideas for future legislation, personally.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I see Delegate Vogel with his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I say something?
Okay, I didn't mean to do that to Alistair, but as a smart teacher, could you just say, can I go to the bathroom? And I say, have you done it earlier today? And they would say, yes. I said, well, then empirical evidence means you probably still can. Also, when they would say, can I ask a question? I said, well, you just did, so you're good there.
Well,
so just move on with it here.
All right, thank you. So first a question and then a comment on the conversation we've been having so far. The question is, when we report an incident of bullying, is that just if a teacher commits the bullying, or if an administrator commits the bullying, or if someone else in the school commits the bullying, is that still reportable through our existing reporting system?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think
Yes.
so.
Okay, so this would apply. Okay, great. And then the comment to Delegate Pasteur, and I actually have a
Wait, let's
bill
do
that-
this.
Oh, sorry.
Laurel, I want to check in with Laurel Kratzley on that. Make sure that we both said yes, but we both said I think so. Laurel, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Do you think the answer is yes to Delegate Vogel's question?
I'm going through the bullying report right now that MSC is also. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am, because we certainly break it down by the ages of alleged offenders, which right now, and that's like the distribution we have to capture, of course, like the perpetrators and around the grade spans. I don't see a category, but again, I'm kind of moving through it quickly, so I'm happy to follow up. I'm wondering if allegations of what you all are describing around teachers perpetrating the actions would be captured more in our like non-discrimination and education procedure, where they can bring complaints around discrimination at the hands of the school. Again, I'm happy to kind of follow up with the team here and see if they can shed more light on this.
And again, this bill is not about, I mean, it's important for us to address how things are reported and where they get reported under what group. But the main thing here is that this bill is about tallying it and talking about it afterwards. So, but it's a rich discussion and I want to continue it. Delegate Vogel, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that answered the first question, and I think I think part of the issue here might be how we interpret the definition of bullying, right? And I haven't historically heard the word bullying being used in a situation where an adult says something intimidating or that might harass or might make a student feel uncomfortable. So I think that might be part of the issue here. The other comment that I had around reporting and making sure that reports are followed through on, and this is to a different bill that I have that is being considered, actually, I think it's on a voting list right now in the Senate, around Title VI coordinators, which are supposed to enforce non-discrimination measures and protections that are already in place. And every LEA it's my understanding that every LEA has a designated Title VI coordinator who should be doing that work and should be making sure that those reports, especially if they involve discrimination, are handled and followed through on.
Thank you. Not a question, but I appreciate your insights. Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would say that I have actually heard of a lot of incidents where either staff is bullying, harassing a student based on either characteristics or whichever. It is not clear, to Laurel's point, it is not really clear when a parent would go fill out on the form. And I do think it is part of the holistic culture of the school and to be part of the reporting. I've also seen where students do and have done and harassed teachers for the same kinds of things. I've seen it go both ways. And so I do think it is a part of that. And so if we can narrow that down, because again, we are talking about reporting, we're talking about different groups, and those are definitely two, that's like the most important grouping that you have in the school is the staff and the students. And so anything that is affecting them, needs to be looked at. But I would also add, because of the other descriptors that are in the bill, about that, about the harassment, especially the sexual harassment, and the injury. And I don't think, to Laurel's point, I don't think that most people would know to go fill out some discrimination form. As a parent, I would never know that. I wouldn't know what that form is. And so I think it is a little bit of a vague black hole with that. My question for Alistair is, can we have on page 3 with the believed and perceived and motivation, are you able to take, does that part have to stay in for the rest of the reporting to happen?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that that's like a trigger to get to the other thing. I should just clarify, Delegate, I reread the bill, the existing statutory text a little more clearly, and the victims covered are student victims in subsection B1. So that's existing law. It just applies to for victims, students. It is ambiguous about who perpetrates the bullying under existing law. It's a bit of a passive voice thing
Mm-hmm.
done, but the victims have to be students. So that
That's
including the
that
reporting
part.
about students, yeah.
But we don't know
Um,
about how it looks about reporting. And I mean, I've seen them used to report staff, and I've been told to tell people that this is the process for, like, when a parent comes to me and asks what to do as a legislator, this is the process I'm told to tell them to follow, which is why it's important.
the
And
other,
all
I'm
schools have to
sorry.
have the same form, right? They can't make up their own form.
Yes, MSDE comes up with a form that is the standard victim form.
And
I
Okay.
on
think
that, real quick, well, just if I can interject on the form, we did the uncodified language asks MSC to come up with a form that is more consistent, right? There was a section, well, okay, because when I looked at the
sorry,
form,
we talked about doing that earlier. There's nothing in this bill as amended that does that right now.
okay, all right, well, because the section's ambiguous the way it's written. It has actions and motive and the why they think they're picked on. So it's an interesting thing. Okay.
I was just going to say, I learned from an esteemed person on this call who texted me on the slide that teacher-related incidents are often covered by the student handbook rather than this bullying reporting process. So,
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to Delegate Miller for a second. Do you want to just suggest for now, and we'll move forward on it if we hear from everybody else, that we have an amendment? Can we do it, Alistair, in this section then? Have an amendment to the line that says an incident of bullying harassment. It said against a student. Can we say a student or staff member?
so the victims are under current law under subsection B1. It's the department is required to create a form for the bullying, harassment, or intimidation of students.
Okay.
So we would be changing the current practice.
Do we have to have the form to have a report? Or can there be a report that exists without that form?
Yeah, I believe you could definitely report things without the form. I think
So
the form is designed for information keeping purposes. So for the counties to be aware of what's happening throughout the counties, for MSDE to be aware of that, and for the General Assembly to be aware of everything
if
throughout the state.
we wanted to do that, is there a fix that we can manage at this late date, or is this something we're going to have to do in the future?
Sorry, I was muted. To change things to require that it include staff, I think that might have a cost for the State Department of Ed and for counties. So I think that would be something you might need to run by your friends in the Appropriations Committee, but not sure.
Okay. You mean designing a form? Is that what you're saying?
I guess designing the form might not, but I think changing their practices so that they incorporate different types of bullying might be. And I think they're existing. You might want to go to someone who's a little bit more expert than I on this, but I think there are existing practices to address bullying of staff members.
Okay.
The Mary Pat texted me, so she
Well,
might
Mary
know a
Pat,
little
why
bit.
don't you just talk to us about it real quick if she's here, and is good. Go ahead.
Thank you. When a student harasses a teacher, it's a behavior issue, right? So they will be disciplined in accordance with the code of conduct. So I'm almost positive that is not necessarily something that we include in the bullying and harassment report.
Okay.
So I think that the teachers are
let's remember
covered.
that's the point of this bill is not, we're not in the business in this bill of stopping it. We're in the business,
Right.
we're in the business of this bill of making reports. So hopefully counties can reflect if they have a significant problem in a significant area here. So
Yeah, I don't think the current bullying and harassment report includes incidents for teachers and staff, but we can double check
okay,
that.
thanks. Anything else you wanted to add? Or are you good there?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is there or is there not currently a form to report bullying?
Yes, there is.
There is.
Yes.
And what would the amendment that you were the uncodified language that you were considering, what would that have done?
Well, I saw the form and I didn't think, since this bill wanted to focus on motivations and what the perceived characteristics were that caused the bullying, I wanted it can still be done on that form. It's just that there was a question where that was answered, but there were check boxes, and the check boxes included both reasons for it. Student is gay, student is LGBTQ, and also the actions. Student was pushed, student was hit, student was verbally abused, and they were mixed in, and I thought it was a little inconsistent. It'll still work. I just thought it could have been better. And I'm going to see if the State Department will just on my, hey, why don't we look at this and see if we can clean up? But we don't have to put it in law to do that, I don't think.
Okay. And then
I maybe misunderstood. Sorry, jumping in. I think they will have to adapt the form to include this new information, at least like a line that says what if there were believed perceived characteristics, what they were. So they will have to adapt the form. I misunderstood you, sir, before. I thought you were saying include a whole new set of bullying things of looking at teachers.
But it'll be relevant that they tell what the characteristic was, because that's part of what the reporting is. If there's a particular group where there's been a significant increase in violence against Jewish students, or a disproportionate amount of bullying against Jewish students. And so it's going to have to be due to religious differences. I don't know I think that's all that's really in there. I don't know if it says, names all the religions, because that gets, but I think generally, am I right? Am I close?
Yes, I think it just says religious differences or something to that effect.
Delegate Pastor, your hand was up and it disappeared as I called on you.
Well, only because I just think that this is so large. No, I can say, having been, as I'm sure Delegate Miller can, on the board, I've been the equity person, specialist for Baltimore County, and a school administrator, that none of what about which we're speaking now is reported in this way. So whoever said it is correct. It's in policy about what happens, and I'm not even sure that it's called bullying. I am sure. It's not called that. So if you want to see a full picture, then we need to at some point include it. But I'm clear.
This has sort of been our problem with this bill, why we've kind of hesitated to do it, because we think there's problems with the system itself that it needs some ironing out. Unfortunately, this bill doesn't purport to do that. So we, if we go forward, we can hope for the best, or we can see how we feel if the reporting is not good. It's
too bad that we can't add, when we do these bills like this, that we can't add commentary that says this is where we are now, but this is what we gleaned after sitting and talking and doing what we're doing now. This is one of the most comprehensive and intriguing conversations I've experienced. This is pretty awesome, but it opens some other doors. So I'm thanking everybody for it. But I see what the bill is. Thank you.
Delegate Vogel.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to follow up on my last question, I know there's a form already, and I know that Delegate Miller was expressing concern over parents maybe not knowing that form exists. What's the current protocol in place for, where is this form available? Are families informed that this form that it exists during some sort of orientation? Is it in the handbook? I don't know if someone from MSD could answer that.
That's Laurel, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So I have a copy and I can share the link if this chat works, but the form is available on MSCE's website, the 25-26 one. And I believe it's also then disseminated through the locals in their own channels and on their website.
So this
they
is for
don't-
further information. And Laurel, if you'll email that to my office address, I'll make sure
Sure.
Katie's sends it out to everybody in the committee. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I don't see any other questions, and it sounds like there was an amendment, but Alistair has told us it might be difficult for us to put here. So I'm going to go on the amendment, and Delegate Miller, I want to check with you that you're willing to hold on that concept for now. And that for now is relevant, I think, here.
I'll hold. Like I said, I'll probably be in favor of it with subcommittee. I may change my vote depending, just because of my still issues with the believed and perceived and how that's actually going to be interpreted. Because I still feel like it's a little loose. But yes, I feel like we have other work to do in the future.
Okay, thanks. So on the amendment as presented, with no changes or additions to it,
Move the amendment.
all those, what we're gonna, do I have a motion on it?
Move the amendment.
A second? Anyone?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. I feel like I'm in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All right. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Okay, I got almost everybody, and maybe Delegate Pastor. There she is. When she lights up, I assume that's a yes. All right. And on the bills amended, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the, I need a motion, a second, sorry.
Move favorable.
Motion and a second, done, thank you. All in favor of the bill as amended, please raise your hands. And we went 100% there. Okay. House Bill 423, is this our last one, Alistair, or do we have two more?
We have two more, sir. Two
Okay,
more
we're gonna
local
try to
bills.
hustle through. Joe, you may have to go over to revenues. You have to decide. We're gonna run into. I did text Delegate Plavkovich card, tell her that we're running a little long.
I got a phone and a computer. I'll make it work.
Yeah, you can do it. I'm sorry. We had a good discussion, and so that, I didn't expect it to be that long, but I'm glad it was. House Bill 423 is a Prince George's County bill. This says that the county will provide kids with test strips or drinks to find out if they have I forget, is it just meth, or it's or is it other things too? The idea is that they have to be able to be, the bill says they have to be able to be obtained for free by the school system. If they don't have to do it. I think that's it. Alistair, maybe you can help me for a second on this one.
Yeah, it's not for meth, it's for GHB or ketamine or
Yeah.
fentanyl.
Right, thank you.
And then there are amendments that the delegation adopted.
Okay, you want to tell what they are, please?
Yes, absolutely. So the amendments clarify that these drug detecting strips have to be provided at no cost to the schools or the students. So they have to be donated by someone.
Is that it? Okay. Yeah, Delegate Miller.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm not up on all of my drugs that can be detected. Are either of those considered to be the date rape drugs? Yes, okay. And is there any way to make this a statewide bill?
Not at this time, I don't think. We'll have to do that in the future. I think that would be.
It's really, really important. And then, or make it also apply to University of Maryland? Because this is only high schools, right?
This is only high schools in Prince George's County, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big issue, especially on our college campuses, and I appreciate the bill. And you could be drinking a Coke at a bar and not even have an alcohol drink, and this is really significant. There's just horrifying stories of what's happened. So I appreciate the bill. Would love to expand it to University of Maryland.
Yeah, we'd probably be out of our lane a little bit there. I don't know, Alistair, what do you think?
Yeah, I think without the delegation's permission, it's probably not the best idea to take their bill.
And I gotta
they
say
worked
that the
hard on it.
delegation fought really hard for this with me. I was like, how they were going to get it for free, all those kinds of things. But the lesson there is keep after us. When we see a good idea, we'll eventually say, okay, let's give it a try. So I would think of it, Delegate Miller, as a pilot, and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good. I appreciate the bill. Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate your suggestion. On the amendment, do I have a motion?
Move the amendment.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand.
Aye.
And we're almost 100%. And then on the bill as amended.
Move favorable.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of the bill as amended. All right, thank you very much. All right, the last one is House Bill 1171, which is
Did
comes
you
in
get
from
my
Howard.
hand? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we got
My
you.
hand.
We
I was
got
having
you.
difficulty.
You could yell
Thank
at me
you.
later if we counted you. I know you. Howard County Board of Education is expanding the voting rights of the student member of the board to include, Alistair, say what? To include?
Acquisition and disposition of real property, geographical attendance areas, and issues with donation, condemnation, consolidation, excuse me, learning to read here, of schools. So basically,
They took out some restrictions. There were restrictions
and-
on that. They took those out.
and
They took out
budgetary matters.
budgetary
Yes.
restrictions on voting on budgetary items. That
So
might
it's
be it.
yes, it's budgetary stuff and stuff about school consolidation and school expansion.
So it has to do with what we would call redistricting and also the school board budget.
There,
There is precedent for this. It's been done in some counties, and Howard County's got around to it. Delegate Patterson, a question.
Yes, I do. Was this voted on by your delegation unanimously?
I wish it was mine, but Howard County is no longer mine.
I'm sorry, Howard County.
Those were the good old days for me. Okay.
Yeah. Was it voted
Alistair, do we
on
have a vote sheet from Howard
yes,
County?
it was unanimous. All members voted for it.
I move that we've approved with the amendments, the
I
entire
don't
bill.
think we have any. I think the bill doesn't have any amendments, right?
Okay,
So
great.
just,
Then
you're moving favorable on the bill then, Delegate Patterson. I'm going to take that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion on the bill? Okay, with that, all in favor of the bill, please raise your hand. Thank you. Roberson, are you in there?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Just checking. Okay, and that makes it unanimous, 7-0, and we have dispensed with all 4 of our bills. Thank you all for